This episode of Yes But Why podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Download your free audiobook today at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. I'm Amy Jordan, and this is Yes But Why podcast. Yeah.
You know what? My dad did voiceover, and so for the longest time I refused to do voiceover, even though I've been doing it since I was a little kid. And then at some point I just gave over to it. I just sort of went, all right, I guess I'm pretty good at this, and I have it in, and I should probably just do it because it's still acting.
You didn't want to do it because your dad did it?
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, I'd go on auditions and people would say, oh, you're Dick Orkin's daughter. All right, well, this should be good. And then you're like, well, I'm screwed now. Yeah.
Oh.
So a lot of times I didn't have the wherewithal to sort of surf that. Even now, once in a while, somebody will be like, say something to me, and I'm not him. I'll never be him. I'm me. And so it's very different. So, but I do funny like he does, but I don't have a different kind of voice and take. So yeah, being in the shadow was really hard, but eventually I just gave into it because I do okay with it. and you have to make a living, and so yeah. I'll do any acting that comes my way, pretty much.
Sure. Voiceover can be fun.
It can be really fun. It can be really fun and really hard. And just because sometimes if you're selling and you can't sound like you're selling, and they give you copy that sounds like it's selling.
Yeah. It's
really hard to say, to make it sound real when you're saying, 5 different adjectives about a project or a product or a service. So
yeah. Or you're the person saying how many megabits per second it is.
Yeah, and I'm not great at that. And so that's always hard. I'm really good at the character stuff. I'm really good at wry, short announce, but if I have to do all the copy points, it becomes a little messy for me.
You know what I enjoy? Because there's, a plethora of attempting to be comedy commercials these days. And I noticed that they'll create it like, what was the one? There's a TurboTax one, I think, right now, where they just say free, just say the word free over and over, but they use a specific tone of voice to like express what it is that they're doing. They're giving the graduation speech, or they're getting married, or they're testifying at a court case, but they all just say free. So it's sort of like a gibberish situation. Makes me think of in that particular thing that they were just creating sort of like a gibberish scene with weird like tone of voice to create the characters.
Yeah, I wonder if that's how they. Yeah, I wonder if that's where it came from, and what the ad people. That TurboTax trusted them to do that is also interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, there's all sorts of weird stuff out there, and you never know what sort of weird stuff's going to hit. Because I'll see these commercials, and some of them I'm like, that's clever, I like it. And then some stuff I hear people talking about, and I'm like, why do you like that? That was a dumb one. We were like, ugh, turn this one off.
Yeah. And fun, funny just to be funny is not good in commercials. Like it needs to be organic to why the product would be good for you. And if it's not, we're not really interested.
Now, do you do
but
mostly
unless
acting and stuff, or do you do like advertising and stuff?
Oh, I do. So I have an agency called the Radio Ranch, and we produce comedy commercials. Right. So I'm a creative director of a whole radio advertising agency.
Oh, well, good. At least somebody who knows what they're doing is making them now. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, guys, okay. I've gotten a lot of scripts where I'm like, which part is the joke? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and we don't do as much as we used to. It's definitely, the internet wants more of the share than people want to pay for radio. So we don't do as much as we used to, but we're still around.
Oh, so you don't make any, I guess, online radio commercials?
We do podcast commercials. So we've started doing podcast commercials, but they are a funny group, those podcasters. And so, and the advertisers, and it's just that they don't necessarily, they want to do host-driven ads, which was basically stopped doing those in 1950s. So I don't know why it's like, you don't have to reinvent it. There's already really good artful audio radio, but they don't know. I'm sure once you can see where people are tuning out on a podcast, then they will stop doing those. Yeah.
Yeah, I only mentioned it because I was just listening to a podcast where it had like regular breaks. Like you could tell it was built into the podcast itself. So I was like, this person must be expecting this. Like they either put in the pre-existing commercials themselves or, they just work with a service and picked exactly which spots that the commercials go into. But it was just like, they were like prefab commercials. But they'd be like, and we'll be right back. And then it'd be like, do you need to take care of your home or whatever? And I was like, whoa, is this a commercial? Like, I don't know. I've listened to a lot of podcasts that do the host driven, like you were saying. And it seemed unusual to hear it the other way.
Yeah, I know. That's interesting. Yeah. The podcast world is very hedgy about it. And I work for a lot of podcasters writing their advertising, which is host driven, which is basically like writing Yellow Page ads, I feel.
Yeah.
Because you're not, I'll be like, here's a really funny idea, and I'll give it to them, and they're like, I can't do that. Well, and then I think they can't really.
The thing about the podcasting world, and I really enjoy it, both listening and contributing.
Me
to
too.
It, but I just think it's such a funny, in the world of such technology that we have, that we would go to just the audio only. Like we decided, you know what, the radio though, that was the invention we would like to focus on. And then we just were like, but forget all the rest of it. Like, and it's just like, I don't know, it's super cool. Like all the different kinds of stuff, from the audio dramas to the news stuff to the, totally made up stuff to, jokes and comedy to pop culture. Like there's just so many different things, and it's pretty much just a bunch of radio shows. And the fact that we're all just like buying into listening, and that's something that we can do. I don't know. Sometimes I think it's, you look at your phone, you look at the TV, you look at all the screens around you, and maybe it's too intense. And that's why we're like, just give me audio.
Yeah, and at first when podcasting, they had video podcasts, but I don't think they did very well. They had
now they're different. Like there's the whole Twitch world, right? And all the people that like film themselves doing video games. And I think that and the other like, RPG world, they do a lot of the Twitch video stuff. I think if the video is inherent to whatever like sort of game you're presenting, then sure. Like even I've seen a few like news ones where, the person's presenting stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I wonder as well as if one of the reasons people love the audio, it's kind of like a bedtime story. It's, you know, you can close your eyes, lay back, or you can do the dishes or while you're driving. And different than radio, you get to choose what it is you want to listen to. Where radio, you sort of have to go with what's on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, although there was something called, you know, DV, like cassette tapes, and you used to put, but this is even better than, you know, than having your cassette tape or your, you know, CD in there. So, right. And then,
now that you mention that, I did legit know a person who had like a cassette tape set of like a sales pitch thing that they like listened to when they went to work, and it would like pumped them up. It was all like, you can do this. And I was like, this is great. This is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is that person doing now? Is that person like a monk now? What is that person doing?
Still working in selling stuff.
That's what he is. His name is Tony Robbins. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you started doing comedy when you were a little kid. What kind of comedy were you doing as a little kid? Like theater and stuff?
I did radio. I did radio and improv, and I grew up in Chicago with a bunch of Second City people, and so my dad had shows, and I was funny, inherently funny. I don't know why. I mean, I'm just sort of goofy, my take on life. So early on, people were like, oh, put her in that because she's kind of goofy. But even like when I did like serious shows like West Side Story or whatever, they'd be like, yeah, you know what? Her face is funny. Can we put her in the back of the chorus? Like that was just, you know, or they'd be like, oh, in this scene, we want her goofiness, so bring her up front. And it wasn't something I tried to do. I just saw the irony, I think, in everything very quickly. So my point of view was kind of goofy, and I'm dry naturally. So quickly, you know, so I started doing comedy pretty early, and then even like went to like serious drama school, and they would keep giving me improv stuff, and I'd be like, no, I'm a serious actress. I want to do the classics. But like I remember doing a scene once in acting class where I lost my child and I was hysterical crying, and afterwards one of my friends said, I'm sorry, I just laughed the whole thing because you're hilarious crying. And I'm like, I lost my child and you were laughing at me? So,
man, what is that in a human person that can laugh at it? I mean, I get it. I've definitely laughed at things that were very inappropriate, but like, I don't know. It's got to be such, especially too, because you didn't mean it. Like if you were trying to be like, wah, wah, like, okay, but
yeah, no. And I think I just realized the more serious I played stuff, for some reason, my seriousness is very goofy to people. So I don't even like, I can see the humor in it, and I see where to like sort of lay out the joke or the timing or the beat. But I think, you know, like I had my colonoscopy last week, and they like told me to like roll over, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm not even asleep yet. Did the drugs aren't where am I sleeping or am I sleeping and I'm dreaming that this is happening? And he went, no, we haven't given you anything yet. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Thanks. Yeah. All right. So like, I literally, you know, I just have a weird, goofy take on the world. It's always medical procedures where they're very deadly serious. Those medical people are very,
oh yeah.
Yeah. Like one time I was having like an MRI, and they said, if, we're going to put the dye in you, and if you start to feel like your tongue is swelling up or you're having trouble swallowing, let us know. That means you're having a reaction. And I'm laying there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. My tongue's swelling up. I'm having a reaction. Oh my God, I'm actually having a reaction. And then they're like, all right, we're going to put the dye in now. And I'm like, so I think it's just a weird play of events that and so my ex-husband at like 28 just said, "Oh, for God's sakes, quit trying to be an actress and just go do comedy."
Oh yeah,
and
that
so
far into your life, you hadn't started yet, huh? What did you
Yeah,
think you were
no,
gonna
I
do?
was.
What were you doing?
I thought I was I was an actress. I was going to be a serious actress.
Oh,
I was
you're
gonna.
serious. Oh, that's what you
Yeah.
dropped.
Yeah, I was a classically trained doing musical theater, and I don't know what. So then I joined the Spolin Players, and that was a really lucky turn of events because some of those people were insanely amazing. And it was like Dan Castellaneta and Edie McClurg and like insanely brilliant actors. And I got really lucky.
And that's where you took your first classes in comedy?
Yeah, they were actually, I didn't even take classes. They, the guy I was dating was in the group as like, they wouldn't let him perform, but he was in a group and he goes, "Why don't you just come with me and we'll see if they'll let you in?" And they did. And I wasn't allowed, like Louis Arquette was in that group, and I wasn't allowed to perform with them, but I could rehearse with them.
Huh.
And so we would play theater games like once a week. And that's how I started. And then eventually, no, that was out here in Los Angeles. And then I did Second City. I took Second City classes. And that was a great story. That Second City was great. And I really realized I sort of found what it is I do. And so, and I sort of found my way. And then I remember auditioning for the Second City touring group, like the big touring company. And I actually knew the guy who was directing the touring company. He had known me since I was a kid. And I walked onto this giant stage. I think back on this and I'm like, what a dork. But what a jerk he was. I like walked onto the stage and I tripped and I fell flat on my face, like really fell flat on my face, like bam on my face, like one of those, like you heard the slap of my face. And then I slowly got back up and he didn't say, "Are you okay?" He didn't say anything. And he went, "All right, what do you have?" And I didn't catch my breath and I look back at those moments in my life and I go, wow, first of all, I should have sat and said, "Hey, let me catch my breath here." Because I just fell and like that was startling and it's an audition and it's freaking me out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it's funny. It's like I look back. So then from there I went to the Groundlings.
Wait, before you move on to that thing, I was like, for a second, I want to talk about this moment. Like, you're talking about how you didn't take a second. I think that's a thing that we do when we're younger. You know what I mean? Like, we don't realize that we can take up space, like that it's allowed. And, all of a sudden something happens and people make you feel like you're taking up my time, and you're like, "Oh, it's okay. It's fine." It's like they wanted you in this room. Take your time in this room. It's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I think it is an age thing as well. I mean, you hear stories about Barbara Streisand who understood that from a very young age.
Well, some people
she walked in and would chew gum and she'd sit down on a chair and she'd take the gum out of her mouth and put it underneath the chair, take her time taking her coat off, and then audition.
Oh, that was just a power move.
Yeah,
that
but
was just
so
like
good,
legit.
right?
Like it was either that. It's good that she got into music because she would have been in the mob.
Yeah, right. So I think you're right. I think as we get older, because now when I go on auditions, if something like that would have happened, I would be like, you know what? I need a second here. That was crazy. That was wild. Like this is, I don't let people push me through on even if I find like the person conducting the audition, if they're being a jerk, I'll call them on it. I don't, like, I'll be like, hey, you know what? I'm doing the best I can and you didn't give me proper direction. So let's let's figure out what it is you need and then I can deliver that for you. Or maybe I should just leave. And so I've gotten very like, I've been doing this long enough where I'm just like, if someone snaps, if a casting director or someone snaps at me, which they do sometimes in auditions, I'll be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Thanks. Or that was really uncalled for. Nothing like doing that and watching all the actors in the room completely squirm because you called out the casting director. But I just think it's right. I think it's taking space for yourself, having self-respect, and knowing that you're not desperate.
Yeah.
And I think when I was younger, I was just wanted to please everybody so badly.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. I think up until like maybe last week, that was probably no. I think, and I was just was telling someone that story, which I had just thought of and hadn't thought of for like probably 15 years, a few weeks ago. And I thought he should have stopped and given me space. Like if he's the director of the company and he's auditioning actors, if that was somebody if I was auditioning actors, which I've done many times, I would have said, oh, are you okay? Do you want to take a little bit of time and come on back in? Probably would have done that. Or at least,
like, was that a bit? Like, if you thought it was part of it, ask. Was that part of the act? Because maybe some guy, I mean, like, somebody had to faceplant to try to get an audition in there at least 50 times. So I feel like he was like, is this something she's doing?
Because if that was something I planned, I did it really wonderfully.
Yeah, I mean, you could have. They would have been. He wrote down pratfalls, and then you were like, "Hold on, just one second." He was like, "Oh, crossing out pratfalls. That was not what she meant to do." Like,
right.
Like, didn't Chris Farley go and do stuff up there? I mean, I'm sure he's throwing himself everywhere.
Oh yeah, I've heard many stories about Chris Farley just being completely insane.
Good Lord.
Completely insane and always wanting to get laid. But yeah. So, I have friends who worked with him in Chicago for years. Yeah.
Sure. It's funny how you like sometimes you watch people and they become so famous they like stop being a person. And then when they like talk about like getting married or having kids sometimes I'm like, what? Oh, right. She's a person. Like
Yeah, right.
Just so used to them being... Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also, too, meeting lots of comedy people who aren't really funny in real life.
There's so much of that.
Yeah, and I would tell you that most of the men, my boyfriends, long-term boyfriends, would say that I'm not a funny person. But I don't know if they say that because I actually am funny or just to play with me or if maybe, I'm sure.
Well, there's on and then there's off stage, right? So sometimes when you're working very heavily on comedy, it's really tough to have it in your, off life. I used to be directing this sketch show for years, and we'd be writing new sketches or putting them up on stage, and I was constantly working on stuff and writing things, and so I couldn't watch comedy sitcoms. When I came home and I wanted to relax, I was like, no, please, something serious. Law and Order. I cannot watch something that is like I get the joke pattern too quickly. Like I can't watch it.
I get that.
Mindset,
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me, actually. I mean, I feel like that, too. I think it's rare that I'll want to watch anything like a sketch show or even watch stand-up comedy. Very rarely. Just because I just feel like it's not, I can see what's coming and it's not as fun.
Right. But then
Yeah.
again, when you're working on something that's like more serious, or you're like trying to do something in a more serious way, putting on something like that is like, oh no, please, I can't. I cannot look at that
exactly.
anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah. I agree.
So,
yeah.
we've got to be many people. I mean, inside each one of us isn't just one or two people. It's like 5 or 6, right? And, when you're in a relationship with a person, I don't know. What do you got to be? You got to be a clown? You got to be entertaining them all the time? No. I went out.
Right.
I did the dance. You chose me as your mate. And now we're back at the nest. Relax. No more dancing.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. I'm not wearing a bra ever again. And you're right. And and I'm going to lay on the couch and not talk for hours. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be funny if we go out. Take me out. I'll be very entertaining to the other people.
But Judy, I'm terrible at parties. Like a lot of times I'll be at parties and I'll just be like, I'm going to go for a walk. So people will be like, I remember one time I had just gone through a breakup and I went on this like big weekend yoga retreat, and we had to write a poem, and I wrote a poem saying that I can't be funny or entertain anyone ever. Like, this is just not possible right now. And she goes, what do you mean? And I went, well, because I'm funny for a living. And she went, how could you're the most unfunny person I've ever met.
Who says that to people?
This woman said this to me, and I just was like, yeah, I make a living doing comedy. And she goes, you do? And I went, well, I'm not funny in yoga class. Like, I'm not going to go be a cut up at yoga class.
If you are a yoga instructor and you are not just effortlessly like supportive of everything the people in your class are doing outside of your class, you fail. Because like your whole job is to like chill them the fuck out, and nobody wants to be told they're not funny, even if it's not their job. But dude, rude.
Yeah, it was it was weird. It was like the worst. We were like in Joshua Tree in the desert, and it was like 100 degrees, and it was just, it was like the worst choice I could have ever made. Like, I thought I was going on a nice mellow yoga retreat, but she was one of those teachers that was like mean. You don't know life. You don't, like, it was like Tony Robbins meets Dracula. It was horrible.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it turned out to be like this really over-serious, dramatic woman doing the yoga retreat. I've always wanted to parody it, though. I always want to parody that stuff. Like, I always want to parody the self-help world because I love it, and then it's hilarious all at the same time.
Yeah, it can get very tough. Well, because I find, and it's almost, I would say, it's almost similar to what we're talking about for us, right? We're funny when we're working. So when we're not working, we don't need to be funny. Well, maybe these people, when they're working, they can be supportive and helpful. Not this particular lady, but other people, they're supportive. But then when they get off, they're all like, forget about it. Don't do it. You shouldn't make that choice. Forget it. Eat this burger.
Right.
Like, aren't you a nutritionist? Yeah, she literally just eats tater tots. That's all she eats.
That's so funny. I was working for this podcaster who's like a famous vegan, and someone said to me, I heard he's not really a vegan, that he eats steak. And I was like, I don't think that's true, but it's a great story. Yeah.
I believe you probably saw him with something that looked like steak, but it was probably a mushroom.
Yeah, probably a mushroom. And I don't really think so, but I love that story, and that would make a great funny film character. But no, like he's like stealing meat on the side, just eating raw meat in his closet. Like, what? Really? I don't think so.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's got like a meat dealer. There's like a guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he
like,
comes over. He's just that weird friend that's only over for 10 minutes. You're like, what? What is TJ doing here again? Why?
Yeah.
So weird.
TJ, such a funny name. Right. Yeah. TJ's eating steak in the closet. No, he's a vegan. No, he's eating steak in the closet. He made all the steaks, like he takes steak and he makes it look like broccoli and eats it. It's like the opposite of
broccoli.
Yeah. But it's actually like, yeah.
Oh my
cow.
God.
Yeah.
I used to think when they said they made the like vegan meat where it's like vegetables, but when you cut into it, it looks like it's bleeding. I was like, who are you trying to get? What group in the vegan community is like, all right, listen, I love a vegetable. Believe me, I don't want to eat anything but them. But you know what part of meat I really miss? The blood. That's what I'm looking for.
Right. I miss that. Like, if I could cut into it and it would like scream and bleed, then I'd be happy. Yeah.
Yeah. The yelling would be helpful. Is there a way we can
yeah, like
yelling?
I want to hear the misery of the animal Could you just give me like me, and also like give me a chart of like all of like his parents and everything before I eat it.
Could you
make it
my bloody tofu with an axe so I can take it apart myself? I want to feel.
Somebody got paid to make tofu bleed.
Yeah, it's a person.
Like What? Really? That's like it's like a scientist that went to like Stanford probably.
Mm-hmm. I bet you they got paid a lot of money.
Yeah, I bet they did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, wait a second, all they did was stick like red food dye in it.
And you know what? We don't even know, but right now in the podcasting world of foodies, I bet you there's a big back and forth about it.
Oh, I bet there is. There's whole 3-hour discussions on people's podcasts about how to make meat look more like meat, or should it, or why. Yeah. I do too.
Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with people's like quirky interests. Like even if I don't, like someone will be like, I really like this particular game, but I only do the 3rd level because they give you a lot of coins, and I'm like, tell me everything. And they're like, do you even play video games? I'm like, I don't, but I'm very excited that you are excited. So tell me everything.
But yeah, I love people's quirks too. I love the I'm also fascinated by people with jobs that feel super mundane. So like to me it's like, so you do that all day. What do you think about? And I always think about like, if you're truly a happy person, it really doesn't matter what you do all day. Like my cat just gave me a look like I'm crazy when I said that. But I think like right? Because they always say that
anything can be good and anything can be bad.
Right. And it's really your attitude about it, which just annoys me. But yeah. So there's a self-help thing. It's not what you're doing, it's how you think about what you're doing. Well, I'm thinking I'm hating this. So, right, whatever it is. Yeah.
The one thing that often helps me through tough times is I'm just in between stuff. I'm just figuring it out.
Good.
I'm almost there. And then something will come up and it'll be like, God, I'm busy again. But it's like when I'm not doing anything, I'm like, I need to rest my creative parts. That's what's happening.
Oh, that's a really good thing. So like, I hate Mondays because when everybody else is going to work, I'm wondering what my week's going to be like. And so I have a friend who calls me on Mondays and helps me plan out my week so I don't feel like I'm going to be like tomorrow. Thankfully, I have like an audition in the morning and then I have 2 podcasts in the afternoon. So it feels like a full day. Yeah. But sometimes a Monday comes and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't really work like the rest of the world. And I'm panicked.
Yeah. I mean, when you're doing freelance stuff, being organized and keeping yourself on a regular schedule is very, very helpful.
It is. It really is. And so, yeah. And I've bucked that whole system my whole life. And now I'm like, okay, I need to sort of really look at things in a much deeper level on how to get things accomplished and organized and moving forward. So I think that planning, right, when you're freelance and you're right. And also too, like, I can't always plan everything because I never know when an audition's going to come up. So I have to sort of keep that in mind as I plan stuff.
Yeah, that's the other part too, is like keeping everything sort of free and open. And while sometimes that's like, wow, look at all the free time you have. Other times it's like, I would love to fill this time, but I can't.
Yeah, my favorite thing my friends say to me, oh, must be nice. With that edge in their voice. And I'm just like, that is the worst thing to say completely. Yeah.
Do you know people say that to me about my 1.5-year-old?
Oh.
I stay at home, right? So I'm at home. And they're like, oh, that's so great. I was like, have you ever stayed at home with a child? And they're like, right. No. And it's like, yeah, well, it's really boring. Like, I used to have a job and now I sit and it's difficult. It's difficult to not get stuff done in the same way. It's just different.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, people are like, you're so lucky. I'm like, well, I'm not because I'm a freelancer and I'm an actor. And so I never will retire probably. So,
well, you probably could. You just sort of have to start investing money now.
Yeah. I live in Los Angeles and I'm an actor. How does that happen? Yeah. So, right.
Well, you know, maybe you move to a bunker.
I moved to a bunker. I keep saying to my boyfriend, we need to like live outside of LA. Cause it's like I videotape or, you know, do voiceover auditions on my computer. Like I don't really need to be here unless I book work.
I have friends who live here in Austin who work in LA because they have to send the video audition. But when they get that call back, they just go. Because flight's not expensive. So right. But it's really cheap to live here. I mean, comparatively.
I mean, inside
Austin, so expensive. Like no.
Right. It's inside Austin. It's sort of pretty. It's gotten pricey, but right around the edges of it, probably.
No. Compared to whatever you're paying in wherever you are in the Los Angeles area, I can guarantee you'll be like, what? I can get 14. You know, it's my family's from Boston and like the house, if my mom sold her house, we could buy 3 houses in Austin. 3 nice houses. Like, so it's like just different, I don't know, different places have different markups and California is just super expensive when it comes to like living.
It is.
So
it is. LA, yeah, and I live in Studio City, which is sort of a pricier area. So, and I have a rent-controlled apartment. So,
see, here people say it's expensive because they're just comparing it to other things near here. It's like, well, sure, it's more expensive than, you know, San Antonio. Sure, it's more expensive than Houston. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Right. But you know, there's a lot of stuff that happens. A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right. It's funny. We just had like 5 days of rain and I think I was at an audition and I said to the other people, it was really rainy that day and LA doesn't do well in the rain. And I just said, I pay too much rent for rain. The whole point of living in LA is to have sunshine every day. And if I'm just had 3 weeks of rain, my rent needs to go down because that is ridiculous.
When I moved here, I knew it was a drought and I want to keep it a drought.
Yeah. Like that's the whole point. We have sun every day. It's 72 in LA. So if we have like tonight's going to be 36, why am I paying this much? Yeah.
Really?
We're having, unseasonably cold weather.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, 36 degrees.
Yeah.
we're not built for it either. So everything leaks and nothing is warm, and yeah.
Oh yeah,
there's just no there's
on.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. So
36.
Yeah. So yeah, construction isn't made for 36 degrees, so the wind just goes through. Yeah.
Crazy. It's like when people, I had a friend who was here and she was going to grad school in Boston, and she was like, any tips? And I was like, don't buy a jacket here. They bake jackets out of like linen here. They're like, winter jacket, here's a light top. You know, I'm like, you need a solid, thick, intense jacket. You wait till you get to Boston and you go into a store and you buy it there. That's so true, because that's like it is in LA. You can't buy a winter coat in LA for the back east. It would never work. Mm-mm. Yeah, you gotta wait till you get there. And even online ordering, because people go, oh, well, I'll just order it online then. I go, they know where they're delivering it. They make clothes for the place. They know,
right?
Like it's hot all the time in Texas. It's hot. I don't need a thick jacket. For years, my family kept sending me fleece, and I just said, give it to Goodwill immediately. I was like, I don't know who wants this, but I'm never going to wear it. Like, it's just so hot all the time. So if I buy a winter coat, I'm not kidding. It's like a linen, like a double layer linen jacket. You're like, ooh, warm. You know?
Right. That's so funny. I can remember like going to actual cold weather and forgetting what that feels like, and then taking a deep breath and just completely like, what? Yeah.
I forget snow exists sometimes. I feel really bad for everyone possibly listening who is like, my house is under so much snow. Guys, move. But like, I've lived in Texas now for so long that like, I just haven't seen snow. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's a problem.
That's funny, but didn't you guys last year get like a little snow for like a day?
Oh,
didn't I hear that?
I mean, like
for now,
like snow was in the air. I guess it like dusted the ground. It's not the like resident heat of the ground here is so hot, and it would have to like freeze over for days for anything to land and stay. Never.
That's so fun.
Yeah. No. When it like rains heavily, or when it like it gets a little icy, but largely just because the roads aren't built for receiving coldness. Like they just don't have, and they don't have like salt or whatever. So if it does ice, they're just like, okay, well, good luck, everyone. And you're like, what? Okay.
So that's LA in the rain. That's people always go, I don't understand. It's like, well, it's not built for that kind of rain. So if we get that much rain, everything floods. It's just, we don't have that kind of, there is no, right. It's rare. So they're not ready for it.
Yeah. They don't build in the drainage if they don't have to.
Yeah. Right. So then the sewage all comes up because nothing's ever flushed that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So it never rained for years when I first moved to Austin. It was a drought, right? It was so dry that my husband, when we started dating, tried to bring me to a lake, and it was actually just a big hole in the ground, and it was dry. And we were like, whoa. But years later, as you know, weather clearly is changing. It started to get wetter and wetter and wetter and wetter and wetter. And now it is crazy wet all the time. So now people there's certain areas of town that people call the flood areas. And there's places where you know not to go now because of the floods. But when I first came here, I mean, there was just never, ever, ever, ever. But still, to this day, whenever it rains, people in Austin, you'll be like, oh, God, I can't believe it's raining. And they'll go, well, we needed it. And you're like,
yeah, that's what they say here all the time. Whenever it rains, they, oh, well, we need it. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sick of it already. Yeah.
Like, great. Okay. Well, my entire front lawn is like a pool. I don't know how much that needed it.
Yeah, and it's funny, and then, I'm not prepared. I don't have an umbrella. The other day, I put a bag on my head. I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to put the grocery bag over my head because I'm going to an audition and I can't. So I actually put I walked into the casting office with my Lululemon bag on my head, and it's fine. It actually worked really well. So I was like, all right, I didn't have an umbrella.
Earlier on, I cut you off before you were telling me about Groundlings, but we've been talking about you doing auditions quite a bit. When did you start, you said it was about 28 when you kind of said, forget it, I'm not going to do the try for serious stuff anymore, I'm going to go for comedy. When did the work start picking up? When did you, get an agent and start doing the regular auditions?
Somewhere around that period of time, I started doing stand-up comedy, and I don't know if it was because it gave me a different confidence, but I started to book. Once I sort of went, yes, I do comedy, that's what I do, I started making sure that if I was reading for somebody, I read something funny, and I think I got my first sort of big commercial at 29, 30, and a little bit of a late start. I had been working theater and all kinds of stuff since I was 15, but I didn't get my first national commercial till I was about 29, and that was because I decided that I needed to say, yes, that's what I do, comedy. And I think I got more confidence because I was having success at it very quickly on stage, and it just and it was a commercial for Diet Cherry Coke.
Oh,
with an ostrich in it, in a department store. And it was directed by this guy named, I think his name was Tony Kaye. And it was the last commercial he was going to direct before his first feature film. So the BBC was following him around on set. His first feature film did not go well, and he went back to commercials. But and the ostrich is a wild animal that you don't want to be in a department store with. So, but, he'd be like, all right, we're going to put you in the crystal department, and you don't flinch, and I just want the ostrich just going to follow you. Well, ostriches just do what they want. They just do what they want. So, crystal's breaking, and he's like, don't flinch, Lisa, don't flinch. And I'm like, oh, my God, and it was night shoots, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, jumping because the ostrich was coming, the whole thing was sort of really weird. It was just so that was my first. And then I started getting some sitcoms, and stuff like that. And then eventually, and then went back on stage at the UCB maybe 10 years after that, a little longer, and then that sort of kickstarted my film stuff a bit.
Yeah?
So, yeah.
So you were doing commercials, then you went to UCB. Why did you decide to go back and take some more classes? Were you just looking for a new crowd or checking out what they were doing?
You know what? I was doing I did a workshop, not with UCB, but with somebody else, and I met this girl in the workshop, and we ended up doing a show at UCB. So never took classes there, but we did a show there that was really successful for a year, maybe a year and a half. And then this director named Adam McKay saw it, and he decided it would make a good film, and then he produced a film based on the show we were doing. And
what film?
It's called Fully Loaded, and you can find it's online. You can probably find it on Amazon or Hulu. I think it's on iTunes, maybe. It's around, but it's called Fully Loaded, and it's about two single moms out on the town in LA with Dweezil Zappa plays the love interest. All kinds of funny comedians in there, surprise little cameos from lots of different funny comedians. But
that must have been a great experience. You're just doing a show at UCB, and then they're like, let's make this into a movie.
Yeah, you know what? It was one of those wild experiences that you never, ever imagine is going to happen. But, before that, I had been kicking around town for about 20 years. So, so it wasn't like overnight, but it definitely, yeah. And so that was that. And Shira Piven directed it. And she went on to direct Welcome to Me after that, which I did really well with Kristen Wiig. So, yeah. Yeah,
Wait,
that was pretty cool.
Were you involved in Welcome to Me as well, or was that her?
No, I am in it, but my scene got cut to smithereens, and I'm like in one of the very last scenes, and I give birth to Kristen in Welcome to Me, and that's like, and literally the whole thing got cut, and the only thing left of me was screaming and giving birth to like a fake Kristen Wiig doll.
Good.
So yeah,
that makes sense.
So the woman who directed Welcome to Me,
yes,
actually directed Fully Loaded.
Yes.
So you'd think I would have gotten a better part, but that's Hollywood. On Welcome to Me. So yeah,
that's Hollywood. I'm glad you seem to be easygoing about it, because I really, unfortunately, think that might actually be Hollywood.
It is Hollywood. No, like literally her first film she ever directed, I wrote and starred in, and then when she got her big break, she gave me the tiniest little role ever. like literally, you just want to go, wait a second.
Hey, now.
Yeah, but that is Hollywood. That is Hollywood. So you have to learn to just adjust. You just go, oh, it's okay, because you know what? In the grand scheme of life, it's just not a big deal. Because it doesn't mean anything. What means something is, are you nice to people? Are you kind to people? Do you have good friends? Are your children safe? Do you have rent control? Those are the things. That's what means something. So, yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's important.
Yeah, and I'm like super lucky to be able to live in this town and do those things. So I feel like, it's so, I've had I always think I have like I'm like the almost career girl. Like, oh, either people see me and go, oh my gosh, I would have thought you had a sitcom by now, or they'll be like, you're still around. So, yeah, it's good. It's good though. I'm enjoying it.
I think it's good to do what you want to do for your whole life. Why not?
Yeah, and I think that like literally, and that's like my new podcast, I think sort of sized up everything I've done in the last 25 years, where I get to take my really good, amazing, brilliant comedic friends and make them play people who I've always wanted to talk to. So like I get to take all of my loves and literally work with my friends in a way like they want to do it because they get to play for an hour with me. So we get to play like, oh yeah, you're Moses for 45 minutes, or you're Tony Robbins for 45 minutes. And it's like so it's like I take all of the things that, it's like, it sort of makes perfect sense. So nice. It's long form. Yeah, it's like long form improv, but it's the way we want to do it, So yeah. And now all of a sudden people like other friends are hearing about it and they're like, hey, I want to do your show.
Yeah.
So,
good.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Really
fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Are all the people that are on the podcast just friends of yours that are doing it? Or are you like even trying to go and get other comedic actors that maybe you don't know personally to do it with you?
Well, I'm starting to do that. So now, so now I'm starting to, like, people that I've maybe met once or they're a friend of a friend, I'm like, hey, so like had a huge conversation about John Hamm today with two other people and said, all right, who do we know that knows John Hamm so that we could get him to come and play on the show? Mm-hmm. And what's weird is I don't think people realize even big name actors, they want to just play too.
Yeah, of course they do.
So
Nobody ever
yeah,
treats
so
big name actors like they're regular human beings.
yeah. So like, and I learned that from doing that movie Fully Loaded. Like a lot of people did it for people will do it for no money just because it looks like something fun to do. So, so yeah, I'm just going to I've started asking people I don't know. Like even like recently I had Becky Thayer on, which I really don't know Becky hardly at all. And, but she's pretty well known and she's on a lot of TV shows, and a friend said, I think she'd be really good. So I just contacted her and she said, sure. And she played Gertrude Stein and she was really funny, but and now that I've been doing it for 7 months and I sort of have a feel for what it is, I'm ready to just sort of go, all right, I'm going to start going after bigger names.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that'd be like super hilarious and fun, especially if they like. It makes me think of like Drunk History, because in Drunk History the person knows a lot about the particular person they're talking about. And I know the conceit there is, like to mess them up, but that person, whoever that comedian is, happens to be obsessed with this one person, or they did a great job of doing the research. But it's like, it's fun to hear when a person gets really excited about something that they're interested in, even if you yourself are not. Like there's this show in Austin when I first moved to town. This was like 10 years ago. It still happens, the show. But I'm talking about when I went was 10 years ago. It was this thing called Nerd Night. And it was this evening of like, it had a theme, but it was different people doing presentations. And they just went up and they were supposed to do a presentation on something they were totally into. And so like this one guy legitimately went up and like explained to us this like 1700s shipwreck. Like this ship went down in the middle of the ocean and he knew everything about it. He knew everyone that was on it. He knew what was on it. He knew like why it was going across the ocean. He knew what was going on, where it was in the ocean. Like he talked about it with such detail. And now I don't care about boats. Like I'm not like, ooh, tell me about shipwrecks. But this guy was so into it that I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm dying to know more, just because he was so excited about it.
Yeah, I think that's the deal. So when I have somebody on, I'm like, they do their homework, I do all my homework, so that we really can have. I'm like, I do not want to call them by their real name once. Like if I'm talking to Carl Sagan, I'm talking to Carl Sagan the whole time. So yeah, so don't break out of character. And and every once in a while, and you can kind of hear it in the podcast, I'll say something and they will not have found that in the research, and they'll look at me like I have no clue what you're talking about. Like I have no clue. And you can hear them sort of go, well, yes, that's actually what happened. And to me, those moments are the fun moments. I love it. And I think quickly realize if they don't do their homework, I quickly know that, and it's not worth doing.
Oh.
So I always say, it's got to be someone you really love, or So a friend of mine, Andy Goldberg, who's an amazing improviser who started Off the Wall. He was the guy that started Off the Wall, which was a huge for the last 30 years here. And he did Tim Ferriss. He had never heard of Tim Ferriss. And he spent like 4 weeks researching everything he could possibly find about Tim Ferriss. And so when he came to studio, he knew what he was doing. And it was really fun. He goes, he's like the most famous guy I'd never heard of. And and he's coming back next week to do Ram Dass.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow. I thought for sure you'd get Pete Holmes to do Ram Dass.
I really want Pete Holmes to do Ram Dass, but he's missing out on it because Goldberg's going to do it. And so, but you know what, Pete Holmes, who could Pete Holmes do? Because I think I've had Jesus on, but I'd love to have a bunch of Jesuses through the years. So he could do he could do Jesus. Like, I think it would be fun to just have somebody say they're Jesus every, 7 months. So,
They keep coming back. He's like, I have different thoughts
yeah.
now.
Yeah, Jesus coming back through different people. So, yeah. Pete Holmes. Yeah, Pete Holmes could do Job, too. But, yeah,
Job.
I really want Pete. Yeah. I want... So Laura House, who actually from Texas, a really good comedian, she was Anthony Robbins, and I thought, could I have somebody come in and be Job and let Anthony Robbins coach Job? So we may be doing some live shows with a bit of panels. Like, that might be the next thing. To have a few people on set. So yeah.
Oh man, that would be funny to find out who would you want in your ideal panel, to have a conversation about life, and then you find out who the audience wants to see character wise first, and then you find the people who can play those characters.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really fun to go, all right, I have four people coming next week. You guys vote on the characters, and they're going to have to do all the research.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
So funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so hilarious. That's so fun though, because we don't have a lot of opportunities in adult life to do research.
No, we don't. And I could do research forever. I should have been a researcher. If I wasn't an actor, I'd be some sort of researcher.
I think actors have to do a lot of research though, because oftentimes, they have to find somewhere to understand what the character's going through if they themselves have not gone through whatever it was. So then they have to do research on what happens, how to react, You can't go
right.
through
everything. I think so too. Yeah, I mean, I think actors, a lot of time acting is a very sort of, you're really thinking hard about who these people are, what their reactions are, why, and story, and how you forward what it is you're working on. And that's it. But if I wasn't an actor, I think I would just want to be a researcher of some sort. But if I would like to be a researcher that could do it on a couch, if I could be a researcher and just sit on my couch in my pajamas, which is kind of what I do now, that would be perfect. Yeah.
You could. You just need to figure out a way to make it so that your show is sponsored by Wikipedia, and then what you guys say just becomes canon. It's that's what Jesus said.
That's what Jesus said. I had Jesus on, and and sometimes the actors come up with a whole backstory that I had no idea that they were going to come in with. And then I just have to go
unrelated to the actual person backstory?
Yeah, the guy who played Jesus, he was when you found me in the Penny Saver, which is our little local paper where people sell stuff. I was oh yeah, when I found you in the Penny Saver, I literally was oh, now, okay, I guess I found Jesus in the Penny Saver. I'm just going to go with that. So yeah, which opened it up to mean that I could at some point go, he said he was Jesus, but this guy's saying he's Jesus. So Pete Holmes could do Jesus.
We all could, really.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, that's funny. Jesus at different points. One person is baby Jesus. You know how people say,
right?
Oh, sweet baby Jesus. I was really?
Right. Right. Carpenter Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus while he's a carpenter.
Yeah, he's 17, building some benches and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny. And then sometimes I'll have actors who just, they're that's just done. They're too overwhelmed by the idea of it. And they just can't imagine. Or I'm well, who would tell me the books next to your bed? And they'll literally be I don't have any books next to my bed. I'm all right, well, who's your favorite philosopher? And they literally can't. So a friend of mine who's a really brilliant comic, he literally with the whole thing just freaked him out. And so another friend of ours, Ron Zimmerman, said, you tell him to be an alien or the first man on Mars, and I bet you he would do it. And so I texted him and I said, hey, so it's Rick Overton who's going to be on in a couple of weeks, and he's a really funny guy. We can Google him and you'll all go, oh, him. And I texted him and I said, Rick, what about being like the first man on Mars or an alien? And he went, I'd love that. And I was like, all right, well, that's who he is then. Not an actual person.
Yeah, you need a little bit more wiggle room.
Yeah, and and I mean, I think too, and I think I almost have worked with. I think I've worked with almost every comedian, or have somehow come across almost every actor in this freaking town that I have one little in. Or I'm like, hey, remember when we did this together? Or we met at this? Or, so.
Oh, you know what? You're in with John Hamm as UCB. He taught at UCB in New York.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had no idea. All right. Well, yeah. And he's also done a lot of.
So you're already connected.
I'm already connected. I think, I was in Silver Lake today, and I know that's where I think he lives. And a friend of mine goes, oh, we have friends that know John Hamm. I go, because I just heard John Hamm talk about somebody, and I think he would love it if I said, come be that person for an hour and then make out with me. No, I won't say that.
And wait until he gets there.
You wait until he gets there, yeah.
And
then I'll be like, you feel... Yeah. Here, smoke a joint. Yeah. So, right. I'll like text my boyfriend, hey, I get a pass. It's John Hamm. So,
I think everyone's significant other would accept it. They'd be like, no, well, that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm like, look, I'm just going to make out with them because anything else would be too much. And that's all I want. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing crazy. Nothing crazy.
No, nothing crazy. That's only in the movies. And then you feel exposed and vulnerable. I'm like, no, just a good makeout session.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
A little bit. Just enough to say, like, yeah, I made out with John Hamm one time.
Yeah. I made out with with Peter O'Toole, though. That I did too. Kind of when we kissed.
Wow.
Yeah, he kissed me. He was really old, and he kept trying to kiss me. And he was very old.
Old dudes.
Yeah. They do, and even though it was Peter O'Toole, I was like, yeah, I don't think so, but do you want to go hang out? And we hung out all night. But yeah. So that would be the most, yeah. That was weird.
That's your famous hookup. That's what's going to be.
That's my famous hookup.
Yep. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Somebody, Penny Marshall just died, and somebody said to me, oh, so-and-so had a two-way with can I say this on here?
Sure, say whatever.
Wait. Penny Marshall and, what's her name from Star Wars?
Oh, you...
Buns. Why can't Buns? Two buns on the side of her head.
Leia is her name.
Yeah. What's her real name? She just passed away, and her mom is Debbie Reynolds. What is wrong with us? Well, anyway, everyone knows who we're talking about. This guy had a two-way, supposedly, who knows, with Penny Marshall and Buns. And I was like, that is the best story I've ever heard in my entire life. And I don't believe he made that up, because how could you make that up?
Carrie Fisher. I don't know. I think you can make it up.
I was like, Penny Marshall and Carrie Fisher. And I'm like, really? I don't know, it seems so random and weird. I guess you could.
I mean,
it was so good that literally I think all of our mouths dropped. We were like, what?
I think there was a weird time. There was a weird time after Happy Days. Star Wars was happening. There was a lot of cocaine.
Yeah, that's exactly the time. That's why I was like, yeah, it makes sense to me. Exactly when, I think. It wasn't like 5 years ago. I think it was like, in the 80s, right after, yeah.
Yeah, people are having fewer threesomes these days.
Yeah, if any, ever. Yeah.
Oh, no, there's still people. There's still a whole community. There's a lot of people who are uptight about sex these days, but there's a lot of people who are not uptight.
That's so funny, yeah. At this point in my life, that just sounds way too exhausting.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm going to wait. Yeah. I always say that when I get older, I'm going to run, I'm going to be the madam of an old folks home. I'll just make sure.
Great.
Yeah, I'll just, we're old. Let's just do this. What's going on? I'll arrange it. I got it. Make sure everybody's clean, taken care of.
Like at that point, I'll be like, let's just get sushi instead. Yeah. I don't know. Right.
I don't know. Maybe. I just hear, old folks' homes are hotbeds for STDs. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah, is that an urban legend? Because that's something we all hear all the time.
Is it an urban legend? I mean, since purely out of, you think that when people are older, they're, physically dilapidated, but that's only a small percentage of people. I know a lot of, my mom is 70, and she's running around going out drinking with her friends every night.
That's so funny. Well, I mean, and also, too, there's the blue pill now. So for the men, and they don't have to worry about getting pregnant, the women. So it makes sense to me that they're all hooking up all over in those homes.
I'm less worried about the sex parts working so much as I am just about their back and their arms and their strength. It's just that stuff where I'm like, everybody okay? You want to hold on?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's why I'll have to be the madam in the future, because I'll have to be there coaching on the side with my finger on the emergency button just in case. Keep going.
Right.
You're doing great, Matilda. Good job.
Yeah. So they could just wear their little emergency nut around their neck while don't take that off
Yeah, I mean, but, you don't want to be caught. You don't want to press the button in the heat of passion. No.
True. So you need a third party in there to just hold the button.
Yeah.
Which would be you.
You always need a third party. That's why they're all so open in those old folks' homes, because you always need to have a chaperone.
That's so funny. It's almost a threesome then, and then we come right back around to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
if only those people had ever made it to an old folks' home. But they were too rich.
Right.
They don't have that, they don't have that pleasure.
Yeah. No, and they both died kind of young, I think. So, yeah. He's not that young enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Just love the idea that they were
people.
friends.
We are having some great conversations, I'll tell you what.
We are.
But it all started with Peter O'Toole, who was trying to slip you the tongue, so it's fine.
Yeah, which was really nutty. And then we hung out all night going from bar to bar.
Did he try to kiss you again?
Yeah, he kept trying all night.
Oh, well.
And then we ended up singing, which for me we sang show tunes, and that for me was much better ever than kissing him.
Sure.
That I sang show tunes. Yeah, we were singing Oklahoma with Peter O'Toole. Has got to be one of those moments in life where you go, this is really insanely cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no point in the night where you were like, maybe kissing him would be good?
No. Let me think about that. No. Mm-mm. No, he was 180 years old, and he had so many facelifts, his nose was on the back of his head.
Oh, oh God.
With baby chick hair.
Oh my God.
He's no longer handsome Peter O'Toole. He was an old drunk. Yeah. But fun.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow, where did you even meet him? Did you bump into him at a bar?
No, I was at the Savannah Film Festival, and I was in a party, and he walked up to me at the party and just said, "You have very lovely lips," and then planted a kiss on me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And my boyfriend was right there, and he just started laughing. And then he goes, let's get out of here. And then my boyfriend goes, all right, I got a truck. And so my boyfriend had borrowed somebody's truck. And so we all left and got in the truck and drove to different bars all night. And then, yeah.
The whole time your boyfriend's like, yeah, go ahead, kiss him, go. And you're like, no.
Yeah, he was like, I don't think he was like worried about it. He just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And because I was totally like trying, yeah. And then we'd be at some bar, and then Peter would be like, oh, there might be people, let's go. And then we'd go hop in the truck and go to another bar. And we were in Savannah, Georgia.
Wow.
It was quite fun. Yeah. Life is not that interesting anymore. But yeah.
Do you ever perform stand-up comedy now?
I don't. I storytell. I do more storytelling than I do stand-up anymore. So if I do perform, it'll be storytelling, which is really stand-up, but it's, with a beginning, middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And because I was a stand-up, I probably have a little bit of an edge on people. So I don't really do stand-up anymore, but I do comedy storytelling.
Right on.
Yeah.
Is your main focus at this point, so you're acting and you're doing voiceovers and then you have the podcasts. Is that your main focus, being the actor?
Yep. My main focus, I think these days, is podcasting. So I'm working on another podcast, which is going to be a scripted podcast, which I'm basically taking an old screenplay that did really well that never actually got made, and I'm turning that into a series.
Oh.
So and the cool thing about podcasting is, audio is my specialty. So a really well sound designed scripted podcast that's a comedy sounds like something that's needed in the world and something I can do.
That's great. So fun.
Yeah. So podcasting, I really love podcasting. Plus, it's like age. It doesn't really matter what age you are.
It doesn't.
So, no.
Yeah.
Not at all. So, yeah. So I can cast myself as my 45-year-old self, and no one cares.
No one will ever know.
No one will ever know unless they heard this. But yeah. So I love the idea that I can, and it's so much cheaper than film, it's like if we're like at Burning Man in a scene, we can create Burning Man in an audio booth really easily. If we're flying in a plane. Yeah, if we're flying in a plane, we didn't have to rent a plane somewhere.
No, you don't. Or be in any dangerous situations.
Yeah, exactly. Or be, any, like with an ostrich. Like, we don't have to do that. So, so to me, the future for me is definitely podcasting.
Nice.
Yeah.
What inspired, what made you decide to do the narrative project? Like what inspired you to create this new project?
I don't even know. I think you mean the one coming up? Because I think I heard some scripted podcasts and I thought I can do better. So like literally I heard some scripted podcasts and they were all like in a room talking to talking heads. And I went, no. If you're going to do podcasting, you could be anywhere. Like you don't need to be in an office talking. You could be doing action and be in an airplane, or you can be on a roller coaster, or you can be, the sky's the limit. Like, you could be on a different planet. Like, there's no limit to it. And I just thought, I want to try and see if I can create that.
Nice. So you've been doing creative stuff your whole life. Do you
My whole life.
see it as, like, how do you keep it going when there's a lull?
Well, I think sometimes there's just naturally a lull between projects, and then I get inspired again. But while I was running the Radio Ranch, and I guess I got really into the business end of it for the last 4 or 5 years, and I really was miserable, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized I just wasn't creating. And I think if I can be creating the more I create, the more I can create. So I'm much more prolific when I'm doing something versus not doing anything.
Totally.
So it's like, yeah. So like in doing Project Woo Woo, it inspired me to do the new sort of scripted project. And I think it just, yeah. And I think I really missed the creative. That's what I've done my whole life. So, yeah. And I just talked to a friend today, and she was just like, okay, I think we've found your place. So now we need to figure out for you to make money at it in a way that feels good.
It is helpful to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, right. So that's why I'm starting to do these pod festivals and go speak, because, not that they're paying me, but just to sort of get out. Share the love. Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to share with me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Good luck with all of the new projects you have going. And, I hope by the time that this podcast airs, there are one, if not multiple episodes with John Hamm on Project Woo Woo.
Oh, yeah. He's just going to have to play every man for me ever for the rest of my life. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Yes But Why Podcast. Check out all our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com, or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.